Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Miniature Menagerie. In this episode, I'm going to be covering how to create desert scatter terrain. But not only that, I'm going to be giving myself a little bit of a challenge this episode. I will have only 5 minutes to explain how I created this scatter terrain and explain all the nuances, all the practices when you're creating really any type of scatter terrain. But without further ado, as the clock will begin ticking soon, let's jump right into the video. Welcome to D20 in Disguise. Alrighty everyone, so let's begin with how I created the bases of these miniatures. So I just took some simple cardboard, used a compass to trace a perfect circle in the cardboard, and then used scissors to cut out that circle. Pretty simple. Next, I took a brush and just brushed over some light brown, golden brown sort of paint tone on top of the base to kind of hide everything which might not be covered by the base sand. And then I put on the base sand. Now, what I used was a liquid form of PVA glue. You could use a liquid form of Mod Podge, or Elmer's glue, or any other glue which you'd like, but I sprayed that glue on and then kind of sprinkled all of my sand on top of it. After I'd sprinkled on all of my sand, kind of rubbed it around a bit to settle it inside the spray glue, I sprayed on another coat of that spray glue on top of the sand to sandwich that sand in between that spray glue, which is a really good practice for pretty much any basing. Next, I added some small little detail rocks. I just used some thicker PVA, just kind of push the small little stones into the PVA, let them dry, and that was pretty much finished. Next, I put on the larger stones, kind of, once again, in the same fashion as I did with the smaller stones. Took PVA glue, kind of layered it across, and stuck that rock on. Now, what I would suggest if you have kind of bulging underneath the edges of your stones is to just take a pencil or something pointy and just kind of poke out those bubbles. Because what I feel like tends to happen is you layer the glue on a little too thickly, it bulges up underneath the object which you're gluing on, usually a rock in this case, and then just the outside of that bulge dries, but the inside is left to be actual just liquid glue, undried. So just kind of poke that bubble, and all of that glue inside will dry eventually, resulting in a much better looking detailing at the bottom of those stones. Next, let's move on to the main attraction of these miniature bases, the cacti. Now, I did 2 styles of cacti, barrel cacti and saguaros, but I'm going to cover the saguaros as they're a bit more complicated. I started by taking a nail which was roughly about half the length as I wanted the cactus to be. Now, you can obviously use nails which are the full length of the cacti, but that's pretty much just preference. Next, I took some Model Magic Crayola clay and then kind of rolled that into a cylinder and stuck that into the nail. Then I continued to kind of shape it into this main body of the saguaro, and I was done with the main body of the saguaro. To make arms for the saguaros, you're going to want to take some wire like a paper clip or something, bend it into the shape you want, stick it into the main body before it dries, and then kind of mold your arm with that Model Magic or whatever clay you're using around that paper clip. Next, you're going to want to paint your cacti. Now, for painting your cacti, I used a slightly darker green to base the cacti, and then once that had dried, I used a detailing brush to run short strips across, up and down, across the cacti's body. But you can obviously make ridges in the actual shape of the Model Magic, but I wasn't able to do this as it seemed unreliable. But if you think you can do it, go for it. Next, let's cover stone detailing. Now, stone detailing, you're going to want to start with a darker base and then detail with a lighter color of gray. Now, detailing, you dry brush essentially, taking off pretty much all of the paint off of the end of the brush and then kind of stroke over the entire rock as there is a slight amount of paint still left on the brush, so it leaves this spider web effect. And that is about it. And there you go. There's our 5 minutes. So that is how I pretty much did these desert scatter terrain bases. They were a lot simpler than the past bases which I've done, such as the swamp bases or even just the plain forest bases. These were very simple as there isn't much bulging or landscaping needing to be done, so you don't really have to worry about that aspect with styrofoam and shaping that into the shape you want and then base painting that. You don't have to worry about all of that landscape. So desert pieces are definitely a very, very easy thing to do. So if you need them and you're thinking about buying them, just go for the homemade route. And these look absolutely great just for like the day I spent on 4 or 5 pretty decently sized bases. So they are definitely the best bang for your buck. Oh. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you like the idea of a time challenge for an occasional video of mine, please tell me in the comments. And if you really like the concept, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you just absolutely love my content, then please hit that subscribe button and don't forget that notification bell so you get notified every time that I upload a video. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day, keep on creating, and I will see you in the next video.